Good evening, I'm Geraldine Sen.
And I'm Ziad Parvez.
Fiji Airways is known as the nation's carrier and has been instrumental in boosting the tourism industry in the country. They have also recorded a profit of 95.8 million Fijian dollars in 2017, have acquired new aircrafts and have plans in place to change out their fleet completely. Tonight, to discuss these matters amongst others, we have our guest, the CEO for Fiji Airways, Mr. Andre Viljoen. Good evening and welcome to the show.
Hello, Geraldine. Hello, Ziad. Nice to be here.
So, Fiji Airways has been doing tremendously well. But how was it before and how is it now?
Geraldine, when I arrived here in October 2015, I was fortunate enough to come on the show a month after I joined the airline. And I remember clearly saying then, and it's still the position, that a lot of good work had been done. Fiji Airways was making profits, but there was a question of how sustainable it would be. So my challenge was not only to improve wherever we could further in the business, but also to ensure that we remain sustainably profitable. And we've been through, I would say, quite an interesting strategic journey over the last 3 years, because it's almost 3 years that I'm with the company, to just build it further, enhance the good work that had been done by the time I got here, and to ensure we're sustainably successful.
And at the time that you have been Managing Director and CEO of Fiji Airways, what factors would you contribute or attribute to your success?
Well, I believe I have a great team. All the Fiji Airways employees are superb. We've been through a number of important processes to ensure we focus further on service quality and also, as a team, take every opportunity we can to keep improving the business.
Looking at service, there's been a lot of improvement in that, speaking from experience, because I can say, from personal experience, a few years ago, about 10 years ago, I flew with Fiji Airways and I had a very unsavory experience. Just this year, though, I flew with Fiji Airways again, and I was amazed by the change. Your customer service has improved, flight services have improved, and I was just wondering, have you made any changes in-house that have, contributed to that?
Yes. So Geraldine, just before I get into service a bit more, we decided as a team to set a strategy that would cover every aspect of the business. And we formulated what we call critical success factors. And we have 9 critical success factors. And number 3 of those critical success factors is service quality. It's about the quality of the service and not the quantity of the service. So in that critical success factor number 3, our key objective is to provide delightful experiences to our customers. And we quickly realized that delight has 2 parts to it. It has a functional part and it has an emotional part. The functional is a customer expects everything to work. They don't choose an airline because the engines work. They don't choose you because your toilet works or the seats work. They choose you because of the emotional experience. And the emotional experience has two parts to it. The first is the senses. Whatever you do, the smell, the sight, the sound needs to be pleasant. But the most important part is the behavioral side. And we quickly realized that we didn't have a centric culture in the business. We had service with different levels of consistency, different standards across the company. So we decided to contract a company in Singapore called Up Your Service. That's led by a chap called Ron Kaufman. And Up Your Service doesn't come and train service processes. They come and educate service. So we've taken every staff member through a 2-day workshop educating them on service. So we now have a consistent and what I would say a common service language in the company. We all understand service. We all understand what it means to provide service and how you provide it, how you measure it. And our staff have been working on every service transaction, in other words, every encounter with a customer, to keep improving the levels of service. So we have this centric process going on, and it's quite visible in the service quality that we're delivering. With that, we've also done a lot of functional improvements, better food, a lot of effort in terms of the actual process. And you know, if you fly business class now, you get hot towels 4 times. You know, all these little touches that just add to the people side. But the key that really made the difference was the lifting of the behavioral side through that education of what service is.
Speaking of behavior, Fiji, of course, we're known for our Fijian hospitality, the warm Bula spirit and the Bula smile and all of that. But we also have something, I wouldn't say is negative, but a bit of a drawback running on Fiji time. And that's something that was unsavory for me. When you're traveling, you expect everything to work like clockwork. You need to get to a place, you need to get everything done on time. How did you manage to change that?
Well, right, just after we decided to progress with the Up Your Service program, we brought in Skytrax. Now, this is the leading rating agency in the world that rates airlines. And Fiji Airways is currently a 3-star airline. And our aspiration is to become a 4-star. 4-star is Air New Zealand, Qantas, Lufthansa, Emirates is a 4-star. So we brought them in to do a gap analysis. What are the issues that we need to address in order to close that gap and become a 4-star airline? So that's been our service quality target. So wherever in each of these critical success factors we have a target. What are we trying to be service-wise? 4-star. Why? Because when we 4-star, we're in the elite league of the top airlines in the world. And when they did the gap analysis, they found a few areas we needed to improve processes. On the behavioral side, the program that we did with Ron Kaufman, and it's an ongoing progress because it's a journey, was the way to change the culture, to be customer-centric, to become customer-obsessed. But also then we addressed this issue of Fiji time. Now, Fiji time is beautiful because that warm, authentic happiness and friendliness is what I see as Fiji time. And the fact that sometimes in the past it may have been used a little bit to excuse service that wasn't at the right quality was an issue, but we addressed that. And we've changed the culture in the company now. When we talk Fiji time, we mean that wonderful, warm, friendly experience you're going to get.
Well, it is clear that it has been successful. Whatever you're doing seems to be working. And we'll talk results in the next segment. Welcome back. Now, Andre, we were talking about service in the previous segment, but what is also important is the bottom line. Now, you've managed to achieve record profits, 95.8 million in your last financial year. How did you achieve that?
One of our critical success factors, in fact a few of them, relate to our network, our revenue management, our sales and distribution. Now, we always say it starts with the top line. If you generate the revenue, you're already in a good position. Then you need to have a very stringent cost control focus in the business. So by driving more revenue and a much stricter, I would call it cost regime, we've managed to keep improving profits. And one of the things I didn't cover up front is we're a very small airline. You know, we have what I call fundamental business challenges that in our model that the bigger airlines don't have. The first is we are very small. We don't have scale. We have 18 aircraft and 4 types, which means that your pilots have to be 4 lots of pilots, 4 lots of engineers. So we've got to run those functions for a very small fleet. Our competitors, some of them have 250 aircraft. Now, when you have 250, or like American Airlines that has 800 odd aircraft, they're spreading those costs over many aircraft and many passengers, and we're very small. So you know, if you consider that our business model's challenged, we have to keep stepping up and even punching above our weight to continually improve our profitability.
And while we're on the topic of business models, what would you attribute to the financial losses that you made from 2008 to 2011?
I understand they had some historic issues in terms of the aircraft types. They were flying aircraft with 4 engines that were more or less fuel efficient, and also very high lease rates that they were paying. So what happened is in the restructure of the business that happened around 2013, we moved to two-engine aircraft that were more fuel efficient, very efficient aircraft at very good lease rates, and the ownership cost was very low, and that enabled the business to have the right platform to make profits.
But even those factors considered, the loss of 79.9 million is quite substantial.
Yes, but that was a hedging issue historically. We hedge today, but we hedge with very different instruments that are very low risk. So, you know, that's history. I always say, there's no point looking in the rearview mirror, let's look ahead. And looking ahead, what did we do in revenue? We improved revenue management, which is how you monitor or manage the pricing against the inventory of seats you sell. And we always try to improve that, in other words, optimize the maximum revenue we can, and then through the cost control. An integral part of that is the network. Where we fly to, how often we fly, the times we fly, and very importantly, who we connect with. Because if you think we serve 20-odd destinations, but through our alliance partnerships with airlines, it's 108 destinations. So you're feeding traffic off a lot more destinations into Fiji. And
Well,
that's made a big difference.
I'd like to touch on to how you have you increased your revenue
Yes.
in a bit, but very quickly, just while we're on the idea of code sharing and also partnering, you've done code sharing for a small airline like Fiji Airways. That is quite monumental. Has it been successful?
Very. So more, almost, I would say close to a third of our revenue comes from our alliance partners. And if we never had those alliances, we wouldn't earn that revenue. So it has been very beneficial for us. And, you know, as I say, the most important part is that instead of just serving 20 destinations around the world, we now have 108 destinations that you can feed passengers to and from Fiji.
Right.
Well, there's been some progress in terms of connectivity. You're now flying to some new destinations?
Yes. So our new destinations, we started with Singapore, which has now gone to 3 flights a week from 2.
Before you get onto that, when you first decided to go to Singapore, you must have faced some sort of maybe people saying, no, I don't think it would be viable.
Well, in any new destination takes at least 3 years to build up. And we always say you need to look at the home base. How big is the home base? Because that's your first source of traffic. Now, Singapore does not have a big home base, you know, not like Australia or, you know, the US.
Yep.
So, of course, that is a question. You know, if it has a smaller home base, why would you go there? But Singapore is one of the biggest hubs in the world. And the amount of traffic is some 57, I believe, odd million people a year going through Changi Airport that come from all over Asia, Europe. So in terms of a connecting point for alliances and partnerships to feed traffic through Singapore is a really great hub.
And have you noticed a difference in traffic since the
yes.
opening of the new route?
So what happened is we've just announced a partnership with Singapore Airways, who, as you know, fly to many destinations around the world. That will definitely now boost Singapore as a destination a lot.
So that's just destination itself. Looking at having to pay prices, because that comes down to the bottom line.
Yeah.
If I were to book a flight, I'd consider how much money am I paying? And 2018 Global Flight Price Rankings has revealed that Fiji Airways is ranked the 47th cheapest airline to fly with, on average US 14 cents per kilometer.
Well, first of all, we're not what we call a first-tier airline. We're a second-tier airline. Every market we fly to, we may fly 1 or 2 flights like Sydney a day. Others are 3 times a week. Some are daily, like LA. Now, we're very small, and second tier means we never set the pricing.
But
we
still,
follow the pricing.
That's still a wonderful achievement, wouldn't you say so?
Yes, no, I'm just saying. So we are second tier airline. We follow the pricing. We don't lead the pricing. But within that, we try to manage it to be very competitive.
Any plans in future to probably increase those rankings?
Well, let me tell you something we're about to launch.
Yeah.
We launch a new program called Fiji Friendly Fares.
Okay.
We appreciate and want to say thank you to the Fijian public for their support. and we want to offer them some very special pricing.
Well, it sounds really interesting. We'll get more into that in the next segment.
Welcome back. Now, Andre, you mentioned something about Fiji-friendly fares. Sounds wonderful, warm, inviting. What's it about?
We're very proud that we're launching a new program where we say thank you to the loyal support we've had from the Fijian public, with a program where every Thursday midday we'll be posting some very cheap fares on FijiAirways.com, which they can buy. These fares will be available for 72 hours, first come, first serve, and they will cover everywhere we fly, all destinations, both domestic on FijiLink and Fiji Airways international flights. This is a way that we're saying everyone can afford to fly, because you just need to go there and buy. But the message in fares, now I always hear this complaint, fares are expensive, what do you do? It's important that the public understand how fares work. You know, we have a revenue management which takes seats and prices, and we match seats to different price levels. The further out from departure, the cheaper the fare. The closer to departure, the more expensive the fare. And it works on this principle. We say there are people with a lot of time and little money. They'll make the effort to buy way out. For those people, we're prepared to give them a special lower price. Then we hold seats for the people with a lot of money and little time who come last minute and buy. And because the risk we take is that if we don't sell the seat, once the flight takes off, it's spoiled. You can never sell it again. We obviously have a premium or a higher fare for it. So these special fares work the same way. They're available for 72 hours. They won't be for the next morning. They'll be a little way out, but you can get really good deals.
Is this just for domestic fares or international?
No, they're domestic and international, both on FijiLink and Fiji Airways.
And how low could the prices drop?
Well, for example, we've got in the launch, and I'll just read it to you, Nandi to Auckland return, inclusive of all taxes, $575. And Nandi to Suva, this is domestic, $39 one way or $78 return, which is significantly cheaper than the normal fares.
But this is
Definitely
inclusive
is.
of taxes and
Inclusive
such.
of taxes.
And will these prices be affected by your peak and off-peak seasons?
Well, obviously, with the whole concept of this is where we see we have seats available, we'll make them available only for the Fijian public through this program.
So this is also a way of giving back to the country.
To the country.
But at the same time, from a business standpoint, this is also a way to make sure that you keep brand loyalty.
Exactly, is brand loyalty, and also this is a way we fill flights. Because as I say, revenue management works on the principle that we want to try and optimize revenue. And you know, this is a special we're giving the public, as you say, a thank you, and also for their support for the brand.
Looking at your partnership with One World, what's it all about?
Right, so we have alliances with airlines. There are two types of relationships with airlines. There's an interline arrangement where what we do, we go to an airline and say, can we sell seats on your flight? We'll allow you to sell seats on our flight. We agree a way to split the revenue. It's normally called a prorate arrangement, and it's normally a straight rate prorate. Based on kilometers that either flies, you split the revenue. And we have almost 42 now, interline prorate agreements with airlines, where we sell on them, they sell on us. If we take that relationship to the next stage, it becomes a co-share, where in the global distribution systems where you go and buy tickets, travel agents, tour operators, we appear together. We link our flight numbers together. That's called a co-share. So you have the same prorate arrangement, sometimes more enhanced, better, but you now have the ability to market together. So when you try and buy a flight on an airline that we have a co-share with, our code or flight numbers appear with theirs.
And this is a first for Fiji?
No, so that's how it normally works.
Yeah.
Now, what happened in the world is the airlines realized that they need to start working together and find ways to share costs. For example, sharing lounge costs, sharing check-in counter costs, and so on. So they formed what they call a global branded alliance. And One World is one of the first and strongest global brand alliance. And we've now become a member of that alliance. They've created a special tier called Connect for smaller airlines like ourselves, where our relationship won't be with all 13 of their big members, but we'll have a connection with all 13, but a very deep relationship with our sponsor airlines. And we're very fortunate that the 4 founding airlines of One World are our sponsors, which are Qantas, British Airways, American, and Cathay. And with those 4 airlines, we will be giving our customers a lot more benefits when they travel on our flights that connect to those airlines. They will get lounge access, they will get extra baggage, all the stuff that normally you have to pay for.
Well, we'll get into more stuff that Fiji Airways is doing, especially with the fleet. But I'd just like to touch on the services that you provide. People usually think that Fiji Airways, you just get on a plane, you go from one destination to the other, but there's so much more that you're offering.
Yes.
You've got the hotel check-ins that are happening now.
Right, so we are one of the few in the world that offer at the hotel in the morning when you have to check out and your flight may be late in the day or the evening, that you can actually hand your bags in 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. You can spend the whole day at the hotel, and when you get to the airport, your bags are already on the flight, and you just go straight through security and through immigration. And we give you the boarding card and your baggage tags at the hotel.
And have you received a good response for that?
Massive. So we use it not only at the hotel, but if there are major events as well. So for example, the golf, the PGA golf, and other events like that, we can go and set up resort check-in or special check-in at those events. And we've done quite a few. We had a major conference at one of their hotels a few months back, and there were 273 guests. And we checked all their bags in, and every guest got their bags when they got to Los Angeles. And they all wrote back saying, wow, it's never happened before. That you hand your bag in, you get your tag, you get your boarding card, go to the airport when it's convenient, and your bag arrives.
All right. Well, I'd like to get into looking at fleet changes, but we'll do that right after this break.
Welcome back. Andrea, let's discuss the new fleet that Fiji Airways has talked so much about.
Right, so we have one of our critical success factors is modernizing our fleet. A couple of reasons why. Our Boeing 737-800s, which serve medium destinations, Sydney, Auckland, Melbourne, and the other islands, Samoa, Tarawa, carry 180 people. They single aisle, it means one aisle, and their maximum range would be, say, 7 hours. These aircraft are 17...
This is the 737 MAX 8?
The 800s are current ones.
Okay.
They're about 17, 18 years old. And, the time's there to change them. We've upgraded them now to the new Boeing 737 MAX 8.
Right.
This is an aircraft with new wings, new engines, new cabins. It'll be a very modern cabin. In fact, the cabin now in economy class will have full in-flight entertainment, new business class seats. So we've really stepped up enormously, and they are 15% more fuel efficient than the current aircraft.
Getting something like that would require a lot of money. And that's about, what, approximately 1 billion Fijian dollars?
Yes, that's at catalogue price. So obviously we negotiate something better than catalogue. But these aircraft are leased through GCAS, and they have General Electric engines, and we bought them from Boeing and then did the sale and leasebacks to get the leases. We got very, very favourable deals. In fact, we're the first airline in the world that got Boeing, GCAS and General Electric, the engine manufacturer, to work as a tripartite to give us a sweetheart deal. So this is a land-breaking deal that we have. Then we have Twin Otters that fly to more difficult airports. We've upgraded that as well. We've just taken delivery of 3 new Twin Otters, and a 4th is coming. So that's a complete new fleet. Modern, air-conditioned, lovely interiors, and of course efficient aircraft.
By when do you see the entire fleet being changed out?
Right now, then we're talking the long-haul fleet. The Airbus A330s are only 4 years, 5 years old. But what has happened is fuel price, as you know, has gone up enormously in the last 12 months, 7 months, 6 months, in fact every day. It's moving up and down, it's so volatile. It's moved from around $55 a barrel to nearly 90. That's a huge impact on us. This year, 18 versus 17, that fuel movement costs us 50 million more in costs. So there are new generation aircraft out for the long haul flying or twin aisle flying, and the Airbus A330 Classic that we have, there's now a new version called the Neo. There's also the Airbus A350 and the Boeing 787 Dreamliner. The 350 and the Dreamliner are composite aircraft. They're made with composite materials, much lighter, fly much further, because our 330s can only fly a 10-hour circle range, and the new aircraft, the new generation, can do 15, 16 hours, and use 25% less fuel. So logically, we need more aircraft, we're growing, and we had to say, well, do we keep adding more classics, or do we think about the new generation aircraft?
And you think that this is the right time to change it out?
Well, it is the right time, because when you buy aircraft, they're long-term decisions. They aren't 1 or 2 year. First of all, it takes you 2 years before you can get a delivery, if not 3, because they are manufactured to your specification. And so if we're going to be looking 3 years ahead to take deliveries, and we're looking at the next 15 years, you know, it's like a 20-year decision. You've got to choose the right aircraft. And with fuel prices where they're going, they keep going up, we need something that's more fuel efficient.
Well,
and that is why we're looking at new generation aircraft.
Well, looking at the amount of money that's going to be put into acquiring all of this, do you think that projections for sales and revenue is going to be able to offset this?
Well, obviously those are the studies we're busy with. So it might be a mix. You know, most airlines have a mix of old classics, or if I call them the less fuel efficient classics and new generation. So it could well be a mix that we'd look at. But I think to keep adding classic aircraft in the future may not be the right decision, and going to some new generation aircraft makes a lot of business sense.
Well, it's certainly very exciting stuff to hear. But with growth, you also need to look at potential challenges to your brand. And one of those things that affects your brand is, let me give an example, the recent ATS strike. How did that affect your business?
Well, first of all, let me talk about growth, and then I'll come back to that. We've got a target to grow 8% a year. 4% on existing routes, and more flights, more and bigger aircraft, and 4% is a new destination every year. That means every second year we have to get a new long-haul wide-body aircraft. So it's quite significant. And obviously services like ADS are very important to us. So it did affect us. I must say that our staff stepped up, did a lot of work to cover the shortcomings during that period. I'm very pleased that it's back to normal, and it's very important that they are stable.
During that time, though, just looking at it, just so that we get a better picture of it, say, for example, when the strike was going on, what were the challenges that you faced?
Well, obviously the biggest challenge we had, because on the airport side, our staff assisted to do check-in. We coped with that. We also had some of the ATS staff do their normal work on the baggage and handling side.
Baggage and handling
and
is
that handled fine, because most of them pitched up for work, and our staff helped. But where we were very short is the cleaning of the aircraft. So our admin and office staff worked shifts. They did their office work and then came and cleaned the aircraft.
So that's the cleaning and all of that. But just looking
at
the
And then the biggest challenge was catering.
Catering.
Yes, because for the few weeks we had almost no catering, and we had to improvise. And our staff were making wraps, chicken wraps.
So when you say your own staff were making wraps, you didn't outsource it? You didn't get anyone from the hotels, none of that?
We got some of the ADS staff did turn up, and their management, and we managed to go and assist them in their kitchens to keep making it. But our staff helped.
And speaking of, well, let's talk about contingency plans. I mean, it's very much possible that something like that can happen again. What are your plans?
Well, it can happen anywhere in the world.
Yep.
And what we showed, even with this, we managed to operate. You know, the amount of disruptions we actually suffered were few, and we managed. You know, at one stage we were serving our passengers Burger King till Burger King ran out. So you manage. And obviously one hopes that their management prevents this from happening again.
Well, I mean, this is really interesting. We'd like to get more into this right after the break. Welcome back. Andre, just touching again on the ATS issue, do you think it's safe for such a rapidly growing airline to rely solely on ATS to provide in-flight services?
Well, I can tell you at every airport around the world, airlines rely on their service providers. And the important part is that they are partnerships. We work together. We make a lot of effort to work with ADS, and hopefully their management have learned from the previous experience and that we will prevent this from recurring.
Well, that's lovely, but then again, just very quickly, should anything happen, are you prepared going into
we
it?
always have contingency plans. So I'll give you an example. During that period before it happened, we had 60 of our admin staff trained to do check-in. And on the days that there were no staff from ADS at check-in, our staff did it all.
Okay.
We even did it to help Virgin and Air New Zealand and all these airlines.
And in an instance like that, to avoid any sort of issues, that's already ongoing and people do experience on a daily basis at the airport, say for example like pilfering, you can assure the public that that's not going to happen, right?
Well, you know, pilfering happens even today, and it happens at every airport. And obviously there are measures constantly put in place to manage that and prevent it. You know, there are closed-circuit TV cameras, there are security people, and it's something that we're conscious of all the time.
But even something as small as someone noticing their bag having been opened,
Tampered with.
yeah, it does affect the
It does.
brand name.
It does, but I wouldn't ascribe that to a strike issue. That's a general issue. You know, one of the biggest challenges we have as airlines is third parties handle the baggage of our customers.
It's not the airline.
It's not the airline.
Okay.
And they are service providers.
Okay.
And obviously we've got to manage those relationships and most importantly the service quality we get
I
from
mean, one of the biggest problems with that would be that the customer isn't aware of the third party.
Sure.
Or they're
No,
associated
the customer
with.
quite honestly doesn't care. They're
Yeah.
just saying, I
But
bought your ticket, and I think, you know, I always say what makes airlines such a difficult service, the customer even thinks driving to the airport's the airline's fault.
Yeah.
So if they have a traffic jam and they're late, and it's all the airline's fault. If the weather's bad, it's the airline's fault. But we accept all that. And in the end, that's why, you know, we try to ensure that the service quality is right across all aspects of the service.
Speaking of service quality and airports, with the upgrade that's happened to the Nandi International Airport, it must have helped your image as well, because the two things that people look forward to is, first of all, getting on a plane, getting off at an airport.
Yes, no, absolutely. We say your first touch with a customer, a traveller, a tourist coming to Fiji is getting on board, and your second is arriving at the airport. And I have to congratulate, Fiji Airports Limited for a superb job. The airport is lovely. It's made it a lot better and a lot easier for us to operate, and it is a great experience for our customer.
And future projections for Fiji Airways?
So just to mention, in that airport, we have built a world-class lounge.
Oh yes, I was just about to ask about
It has been acclaimed by many as one of the best in the world. We think it is the best. So we've added to the experience. And you were saying? Sorry.
I was just wondering about future projections for
Yes,
the company.
so we're projecting to grow at 8% a year. And that's quite a tall order. And it's important that in order to achieve that growth, that there are enough hotel rooms built, and that the roads and everything can cope with it. And we're working together with all the different parties to ensure that our projections align
And
with
just
what they're doing.
quickly, of course, I did mention right in the beginning about the money, $95.8 million, and
Yes.
then you had huge bonus payouts
Yes.
for managers and for staff. Which tells
So,
more
so
about that.
we have a profit share scheme, which is based on a certain number that was set years back, and every 5% we improve profits. Their bonuses improved by 5%. Management got a $9,000 payout, and staff $4,400. And these numbers will keep increasing as
And this
we
is
go
the
along.
largest bonus payout so far?
Yes, it is.
So is that 4,000 or 400?
No, 4,400
Oh, okay.
per employee. and
Yeah.
9,000 to management.
Quite a bold statement to make out in public, to say that this is exactly how much you're going to be paying out to your employees, correct?
Yes, it was 4 to staff and 9 to management.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, no, it's interesting. Quite a few staff sent me emails before saying, "Don't mention the figure. My family are going to come and borrow from me." So at the end of the day, this is a transparent scheme, and we announce the numbers.
All right. Thank you for coming on to the show. And if you have any queries pertaining to the matters discussed in tonight's program, you can contact Fiji Airways Customer Care Centre on 672-0888 or 330-4388. Or you can also send an email to service@fijiairways.com.